Yeah, and there's the power dynamic of that, right? That I got it.
Yeah.
Don't worry your pretty little head. So
I can do this.
I got that better
this
than
part.
you.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that there's ego involved there. There's a whole bunch, both hands. It's a whole bunch of things. Right? It's a combo of things. There's an ego involved there, like I can do that better than you, so just let me handle it because waiting for you to do it. Mm-hmm. There's like a superiority in that tone, and there's also like we might fear the guilt or shame of being a good woman. Like it's my job, and if I don't, somebody else will. I might lose him. Right, because we're afraid that he might not learn to step up, or she or they or the kid might not learn to step up. They might just go find it somewhere else because somebody will do it. And my question to you is, if that's what they'll do because they need it, then maybe you aren't the one for them.
But I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's that I'll be replaced. Somebody else will do it.
Yeah.
Also, they will be able to do it for themselves, and they won't need me.
Oh, yeah.
They won't need anybody.
And then what? Right, so our purpose, which is
my
ego
role?
Connected, right? Mm-hmm. My purpose is to protect, shield my people. And if I'm not doing that, what good am I? What do they need me for? Which is a self-worth issue, because now we're talking about if an identity issue. If you don't do that, what are you worth?
Right.
Which means you don't know your own worth.
Right.
Like, you don't realize that you're worthy because you're smart and you're funny and they like to look in your eyes and you want to talk about things.
Self-worth. It always comes
Let me tell you, everything is about what's worth it. I believe that statement as a root cause 100%. If I don't do something, it's not worth it to me to do it.
Yeah.
If I don't make a shift and stand in my truth, it's because I'm not worth it to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Not literally, but in my mind, I believe
your sense of self-worth is off.
I believe it always comes down to what's worth it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I can think of things I haven't done or I have done that have challenged or affected other people in my life and around me, and it would be easy to be like, well, you didn't show up for this thing, which means it wasn't worth it to you. And that is true because I believe that is a root cause. What's important to note is that it's not because you aren't worth it to me. Mm-hmm. It's because the circumstances of doing that thing aren't something that I'm courageously set up to do, and so it's not worth me finding the courage to be confronted with whatever those circumstances are. It's not personal to the human that may feel outed or ignored or whatever. It's about it's not worth finding the energy, time, whatever resource, courage, love to deal with the circumstances that are going to confront me when I get there. Or
it's not worth it to me, maybe, and by worth I mean convenient or easy or simple for me to figure out how to do something different, right? So I'm thinking about I'm thinking of a personal example, but
get personal.
I'm thinking about, let's say, I'm gonna make my personal example more general. If you are you need to spend time with someone.
Okay.
Someone that you're relating to.
Okay.
But you're busy and you have a ton of stuff to do.
Okay.
It may not be worth it to you in the moment to figure out how to juggle all these other things so that you can spend the time. And so, because I literally mean it may not, in the moment it's I just have so much to do, I just need to do it. Taking the time to try to figure out how to not do it, but also not impact in the ways that me not doing it impact all the other people, all the other whatever that would be impacted if I don't do it and I do this other thing is not worth it in the moment.
Right, which basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We measure our resources, right? Time, energy, effort, thought. Yeah. And if it's not worth it to figure out, it's because it's not worth your resources, right? And not the other person on the receiving end isn't worthy.
Right.
But all the challenges, all the obstacles I foresee and maybe assume exist, because I don't know what would happen, that is not worth my energy.
Right. In that time. And what's interesting is that can change.
Absolutely.
Because at some point, maybe it is worth it. Like, maybe I do have the time, energy, resources to strategize a different way of doing things. But in this moment, for this time, I don't. For this period,
I wonder how much. And of course, we're making that decision based on a quick cost benefits analysis, right? Like, it's not worth it to me because what I assume I'll get from it can't replace what I have to put into it, right? Because we are just kind of naturally, selfish, and I want to use that word because selfish. And I'm learning this. This was hard for me. I'm being challenged actually by a good friend of mine with this one. Selfish isn't bad.
Yeah.
It's not. Entitled and selfish is problematic. Selfish and thoughtless is really problematic. Selfish and unloving is a challenge. But selfish, self-love, those can kind of be the same thing if it's backed with healthy, solid, loving, thoughtful intentions, right? And I think that we get that label, we put selfish on something, and we're like, oh, they were wrong because it's selfish. And I'm like, maybe they weren't wrong.
Right.
Maybe they needed to be selfish because that's where their resources needed to go, because you don't know their story, you don't know their hang-up, you don't know what they're challenged with. And today, they needed all of their energy, and they didn't have any to give to you.
Yeah.
Their plate was full, so they had to be selfish. I just want to add all that noise in the background.
I know.
It's like,
it's serious. I was also thinking about, like, in particular, the personal example that I was thinking of. That person is not selfish enough. They do not exhibit enough self-love. So when you talk about it, like, not being personal and stuff like that, it's like, yeah, their choices are always based on that quick cost-benefit analysis, and how other people, other entities will respond, and not even what they need or want. So, which
goes back to, like, we're talking about how loving yourself is an active thing that you have to do all the time, every day. Because you can do that, you can get caught up in that and be like, I haven't even checked in on, like, what I need from me.
Or
I don't even know. Right.
Yeah. It's all about, so I'll, like, rephrase the example. I know that if I'm super, super busy, I can text you and be like, Rachel, like, I can't. And
like, okay, girl.
Right.
Let's reschedule. Let me know when you open.
Exactly. And there are other people who will not understand that. There are other people who will be more impacted by me doing the exact same thing. And so sometimes I may make a decision based on that, knowing, like, the impact. Like, I'm going to have to cancel with Rachel and be over here because this person over here is not going to understand, but Rachel will.
Right.
And I might need to keep our plans. Right? Like, I might need to see you for whatever we need to do. I might need that for me. But now I'm not being selfish. Now I am making choices based on...
You're risk averse at this point.
I'm risk averse, but I'm also making choices based on me feeling like you can handle it and they can't.
Right, and so then think about this. Everybody's worthy.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. The person that might give more, there might be more reciprocity. The person you don't feel as responsible for, there's more balance in the relationship. So you get more benefit from spending time with, because you're maybe not carrying their weight of they can't handle that, so I can't cancel with them.
Yeah.
Is getting, I don't want to say the short end of the stick, but that's like a cliche everybody gets, right? Like,
yeah.
And you can't do that too many times to that person, because because they are more balanced with you, knows their worth, and if you do that too many times, they're gonna be like, look, you ain't got it for me, and so we should just cut it, okay? And they'll be more apt to do that and they're probably more beneficial for you to be spending your time with. That would
That's
be the more
right.
self-loving,
You need
selfish
that.
thing to do.
That would be the selfish thing to do.
But
the
you're
self-love thing.
full circle, protecting somebody else's discomfort and trying to manage the fact that they might not be able to handle, and maybe they
And then
can't
they
handle
will
it,
never be able
and
to
they're
handle
not
it.
for you.
Because everybody at that, they're not for you, because you're not able to give yourself what you need when you're relating to them, and you are keeping them from ever growing and becoming equipped like the other person.
And if they require that of you, right? If they like require you to carry their burden, then we're talking about an unhealthy relationship behavior, because balance is one of our 5 factors.
Yeah.
And not that like we can't have moments where I need you more than you need me, because that's
Right.
totally fair.
That's
but
part
if
of
I'm
balance.
constantly like, oh, I can't with that person because they just don't have the strength to deal with me canceling, well, they need to find it, and the only way they'll find it is if you cancel, and they have to deal with that, and they have to maybe confront you and be like, I feel like you're always doing this to me. You know what? It's actually not personal, and I need you to understand that. And then they got to grow. And if they walk away because they can't deal with that part of you, you have to know, I was trying to carry their weight, and this stretch is good for them.
Yeah, and I like what you said too. Like, if you, on the flip side, if you are canceling on the person because you think that they're equipped, because the relationship is such that you're like, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
I can cancel on them. At some point, that person might be like, right, I gotta go.
And the idea that,
Because they're not
this
feeling
comes up a
balanced.
lot in relationships, in that we sometimes treat the people we're closest to the worst, right? I have a bad day at work. I don't like take it out on a stranger. I take it out on my partner. I go home and I'm like, look, and I'm short and I got tone and I don't want to do that. How unfair of us when that's the person we receive the most benefits from. They give us the most of themselves,
Right.
and then we dump our stuff on them the hardest.
Yeah.
It's super thoughtless.
Yeah.
And that, I would say, is like selfish and thoughtless.
Yeah.
And I get it happens kind of naturally, so we're human, so there's got to be grace in every relationship,
Right.
even the one with ourselves. So, but the key is we need to start noticing us doing that more often to the people that show up for us, and we need to start to let them carry their own weight and not pour our weight on it when things get hard outside of that relationship.
Yeah.
We don't need to then dump those outside relationship woes on this relationship.
Yeah, and to that point, the partner has every right and should, because it's kind of what we're speaking about, speak up when it's too much. The same way, Rachel would need to be like, hey, you canceled again, and I know you got a lot going on, but we need to figure this out.
Or I might,
to be like,
just
you keep dumping on me.
Yeah, and I might just ask. I think this is the important part about relationships. Like, if that you and I canceling example, I might just be like, "Hey, you canceled again. Are you good?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's up?
Are we good?
Like, and
Is it
I
deeper than
because
that?
I need to know. Like,
Is
seems
it
to be a
personal?
pattern,
Right.
And I want to make sure that we're not getting into an unhealthy pattern.
Right.
And my time is, and I'm allowed to say, like, my time is important. So sometimes it's hard when you cancel at the last minute.
Yeah.
This is not reality, by the way. But,
Right, no.
but, and then give you the opportunity to say, like, oh, I hadn't even thought of that. It's just that I was trying to protect this other person
Yes,
or whatever.
to bring it to
And then
my
I'd be like,
awareness.
oh, and now we get to have, again, this is why the relationship is more beneficial maybe than the one that is burdened. I get to say, like, hey, that's not good for you.
Right.
Like, forget me now.
Right.
You're protecting somebody and carrying their weight. Like, you're worth more than that.
Yeah, I think that's important too. You just made me think of like when you have a more balanced communicative relationship, you are in a place where you have trust and you can give that person the benefit out. Like maybe they don't even realize.
Right.
Like maybe I need to bring this up so that we can figure this out because they probably don't even
like,
know.
so all week you've come home and your tone has been real crappy with me, and I know I haven't done anything to you, so can we talk about
Right,
this? And then
right.
you're like, oh, you know what? I didn't even notice. I've been feeling really bad,
Yeah.
and this is happening.
Yeah, and then you can work that out. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
important on both sides.
So we're talking about
Wow.
communication, one of the factors,
Right.
balance, one of the factors, safe space, respect,
Trust.
trust,
Yep.
and how it affects intimacy.
Yeah.
And the depth of a relationship with it, which is what we kind of refer to as intimacy, right? A friendship that you can do that with
Right.
is a more in-depth, intimate, safe space than a relationship where you're like, "Ugh, I can't tell them I can't come because they'll cry about it or whatever.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and just occurred to me, like, it could just be a less flexible relationship. It could
Sure.
be work. You know, Rachel has to cancel on me because she has another work obligation, or not even cancel. If we can't get something scheduled because we've
Right.
got a work thing or I have a meeting with someone, then those are the kinds of things where you might be like, okay, this person is not going to be as understanding. It's not going to be as easy for me to reschedule. It's not going to, be as simple.
So if I'm going to make time, I need to make time for them first.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's complex.
It's complex.
I've been saying this a lot lately, and I really like it. Love, because I feel like love, life, synonymous in a lot of, for me, is not complicated or complex. Humans are complicated. We are complex. And when we try to go take our complex, complicated selves and do love and do life and then do it with another complex, complicated person, it gets complicated.
Yeah.
And not because love is at fault. Love is not at fault. I think there's a Mary J. Blige song about love, not
many.
blaming love. Oh my gosh, I'm so bad with like songs and titles.
But I can't think of what it's
Basically,
called right
like
now.
she's saying she went through it, but she doesn't blame love at all.
Right.
Love is still great.
Right.
It's not love's fault, because then there's like falling in love is so hard on the knees, and like all these songs talk about like how love is the problem, and she's like very clearly like love is not the issue.
Yeah.
These relationships, these people, these behaviors, they're the issue. Love is still flawless. And I love that song so much because it's really easy in general to turn and point your finger at something and be like, oh, it's because of that.
Right.
It's because of them. It's because of this decision. No, it's because people are complex.
And if
and
you
love is
understand
perfect.
that you are complex, it's easier for you to give another person
Grace.
room and grace to also be complex, like, and to realize that it's not personal.
complicated.
You're right. You're both navigating what it means to be a very complex
Individual.
person. Yeah. So
Life is not complicated, but it's hard. Love is not complicated, but it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard because it's hard
we're
to
complicated.
do. Because we
it's
bring
hard
all
for
our
us
stuff.
to do it. Right. It's hard for us to understand it and do it.
We don't get to come to love as pure spirits in this world. We come as humans, and we got to remember.
Yeah. How would we not be complex when we are spirits in human bodies?
And just
Trying
look at
to
our
navigate those
just look
two
at your
worlds.
body as like a manifestation of like all that we are. The body is so complex.
Yeah.
All these systems have to work
Yeah.
together, and
Yeah.
all these external things that the body feels the effects of out in the world. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think there's a more perfect, symbolic, physical manifestation of like what it means to be mind, body, spirit, and address and deal with all these other mind, bodies, and spirits.
Yeah. It's wow. That's saying a lot. It's not easy. It's not easy.
It ain't easy, but it's worth it.
Right. You're worth it. We're all worth it.
That's
This whole practice is worth it. This practice we're up
practice
to.
every day.
Right.
Cool.